In the global race towards a sustainable green economy, Norway has a head start. The forces of nature that once made our lives a hard-fought battle now make us uniquely suited to become the first society powered solely by clean energy. Green data centers running smart societies on low-cost renewable power and free natural cooling, taking advantage of the same abundant and reliable access to clean energy that made our heavy industry the cleanest in the world. Norway's availability of affordable, clean energy may prove a competitive advantage for business and industries in a low-carbon future. Electrification is the key to a sustainable low-carbon society. Electric mobility, cars, ferries, data processing, automation, production, high technology and new business models, running on energy that is renewable.
This is the Øvre Forsland power station in northern Norway, by many considered the most beautiful hydropower station in the world, and we agree. 1,500 such hydropower stations combine to make Norway Europe's leading producer of hydropower, and these power stations are the backbone of the Norwegian value proposition for data centers as well. Welcome to this webinar about Norway as a data center location. My name is Benedicte Fasma-Vola. I'm a special advisor at Innovation Norway. Innovation Norway is the Norwegian government's instrument for sustainable value creation in Norway, and I work in a part of Innovation Norway called Invest in Norway, which facilitates foreign investments. We also work very closely with the Norwegian ecosystem in, for example, data centers, and I have here with me today Catherine Langjord from Statkraft and Svein Atle Hagaseth from Green Mountain. Catherine?
Hi, yes, my name is Catherine, and I work for Statkraft for our data center initiative. We're Europe's biggest provider of renewable energy, generating about 61 terawatt hours per year. Also one of the biggest traders. We're 100% owned by the state, and global presence, and about 4,000 employees.
And my name is Svein Hagaseth. I'm the Chief Sales Officer for Green Mountain. Green Mountain is a Norwegian-based wholesale co-location company who have been operating since, started in 2009, went operational in 2013. Have now 3 data center locations in Norway and continue to grow very fast. All state-of-the-art data centers with very, very high energy efficiency.
So now let's talk a little bit about Norway in general. Norway is a small country, only 5.2 million people. But going back hundreds of years, we have industrialized this small nation with the help of hydropower. Our society is highly dependent on both the power and the strong grids that we have built the past 100 years to connect them. Today, Norway ranks #1 on the World Economic Forum's ranking of energy access and security, largely thanks to this energy situation, which Catherine from Statkraft will elaborate on shortly. As a country, we also consistently rank among top 10 on ease of doing business. We also rank very highly on the IMD World Talent Report, and we are one of the highest ranking countries for best European countries for business in 2019. We rank very highly, #3, as the happiest country in the world. And this is largely thanks to our flat organizational structures, high standard of living, equality between the sexes, and high level of trust. Although we are small, we're part of a much larger market. Through the EEA agreement, we are a member of the EU's single market. Our legal system is very well developed and prides itself on its independence, and business with foreign ownership are treated in exactly the same way as businesses with Norwegian owners. And that's, of course, extremely important to a small, open economy such as the Norwegian. We're always looking for new ways to use our renewable power sources. And one exciting opportunity is the data centers that we will be talking about today. If you value renewable and reliable electricity, political stability, and excellent business conditions, Norway makes sound business sense.
Benedicte, I also believe that the Norwegian government was was the first country in the world to issue a data center strategy. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, thank you, Svein Atle. It's true. In 2018, the Norwegian government was the first in the world to launch a data center strategy. And it's titled Powered by Nature, because that is, of course, what we are. This strategy had a strong effect on the business environment, and both the Norwegian and the international data center players in our ecosystem tell us that this strategy really proves that the government is committed to working to improve the framework conditions for the sector. The fact that it's signed by 4 ministers, but also the fact that there was strong political backing from parties outside of the cabinet, was also very important because it ensures continuity regardless of which parties are represented in the ruling coalition in 2 or 4 years. This strategy document both documents the work that has been done and the work that is being done or needs to be done in order to make Norway attractive for data center investments. And this included reducing the energy tax for data centers. It included reducing property tax for industry in general, and increasing the amount of international subsea fiber connections, which is very important for our sector. The strategy is currently being updated, and the government has asked the sector to give input as to what needs to be updated. The data center strategy is not the only strategy to be released recently from our government. They also recently introduced a strategy for artificial intelligence, or AI. We have a growing AI ecosystem in Norway, and it's a very industrial focused AI that supports our strongest industries. And the AI strategy explicitly addresses the role of data centers in AI in Norway. There's even a chapter entitled Norwegian Data Centers as a Resource for AI, where the match between the Norwegian data centers and the very energy intensive high-performance computing is highlighted. And a good example of this is Volkswagen, who recently opened a data center with Green Mountain for high-performance computing. And Catherine, you recently joined Statkraft, and you're here to present the energy side of our Norwegian data center value proposition. And we're wondering, what is a question that you are asked the most often?
Thanks, Benedicte. Yes, I recently joined Statkraft. I must say, besides the question about the data center strategy, one of the questions I get the most is one that is very close to my heart, and that is, of course, is electricity in Norway truly green? And with 75% of the greenhouse gas emissions being energy related, this makes the climate challenge first and foremost an energy challenge. And this is one of many reasons why Statkraft is heavily dedicated and why we're fully committed to contribute to achieving the climate neutrality objective. So to answer the question, yes, the power in Norway is green. The water reservoirs, as you can see in this picture, they were constructed decades ago, situated in cold climate, rocky mountains with almost no vegetation, scarce vegetation. These dams and hydropower stations have very low impact on the surroundings, making it truly green. And the focus on climate has demanded the whole industry to greenify and become sustainable. We hear about Microsoft going carbon negative. Amazon's Kara Hurst says they believe it's possible to reach 100% renewable by 2025. Google and Facebook, as we all know, have topped the list of biggest purchasers of renewables year after year. And these trends leading to a greater focus on where the data center buys the physical power, regional or national power market. And this power market has an energy mix, as you can see here. And therefore, you need to greenify your actual consumption. This is typically done by adding corporate PPAs and adding more renewables into the energy system. In Norway, due to all the mountains and snow, we have a great surplus of hydropower. And very unique in this regard as well, because while the renewable part of consumption in the US is about 15%. In the EU, it's slightly below 17. In Norway, there's an oversupply, and in recent years, we've had a substantial oversupply. And this is expected only to increase in the years to come. Therefore, in Norway, the energy mix is green already. You're good to go. Statkraft can, of course, supply you with 24/7 renewable energy.
And what about the prices? I guess most people are quite curious about that as well.
Yes, they are. And I guess we cannot have a webinar these days without mentioning what the COVID-19 means for all of us. And for the power market, this has, together with other factors, resulted in a big COVID dip. At this extraordinary time, we have a strong hydrological situation with record high amounts of snow in the mountain areas in the north, low fuel prices, as well as low demand due to the pandemic. This has led to the lowest power prices the last 20 years. We see the spot price lately being as low as 30 euro cents per megawatt hour. The outcome is uncertain. It might be a swift recovery, or there might be long-term effects. Nevertheless, Norway usually have the lowest price levels in Europe, as you can see here. And this is due to the competitive grid fees, the lowest possible energy tax, and the fierce market. And as you saw on the last slide, the baseload price for the year to come, 2021, is estimated to be around 25 euro per megawatt hour. The Nordic region will produce 45 terawatt hour electricity, more than it consumes in 2025, up from the present level of 21. And with such a large and increasing surplus of power in the Nordics, there's no reason why this price level would change dramatically. And according to the Norwegian TSO Statnett as well, they expect the Norwegian prices and the Nordic prices to be lower than the rest of Europe and basically remain unchanged until 2040. Svein Atle, I guess the price level and forecasts are quite popular with you and your customers as well. Price being essential, what about latency? Would you share some more information about what's happening with the fiber and the connectivity in Norway and the Nordics?
Absolutely. There's two parts to your question there, and of course, cost is always and will always be important for our clients, and of course, the business cases that you can provide based on the low cost of power and the low cost of land in Norway is amazing. And I got actually this confirmed in one of the first meetings I had in Green Mountain with one of the largest cloud providers globally, and they just confirmed that the business case of Norway is amazing. The only thing that is holding you back and which is killing the business case is actually the connectivity side. And traditionally, I believe that to be true. So if you look back to the early 2000s, this was kind of the original legacy network in the Nordics. 95% of the traffic into the Nordics went through Copenhagen, and that was okay at that time. Now, with a lot of the cloud providers already present in the Nordics, Facebook in Luleå, Microsoft in Sweden, and Norway, Amazon in Sweden, that requires a new demand and a new requirement of adding diversity into the Nordics. And over the next 12 to 14 months, or 12 to 18 months, there's going to be a lot of new fibers coming into Norway. There's actually 10 new fiber projects being built into the Norway, some which is already operational, like the new intercontinental fiber Havfrue from Norway directly to the US, with also branching units in Denmark and Ireland. That's actually the first new North European fiber to the US in the last 20 years. And I think that's also valid for a lot of the other fibers in Europe, is that it's typically old technology, copper, or a lot of the fiber typically have lifetimes of 20 to 25 years. All the new fibers being built into Norway now are new fiber, adding diversity, adding low latency routes, and adding more direct routes to the continental Europe. So that actually makes the new or Norway kind of center of the universe in regards to what's happening in the fiber. And with all of this, you kind of get a new center in Europe. So supported by a lot of the elements that both Benedicte mentioned, the ability to have available land and a progressive government, and the low cost of power and the abundance availability of renewable power in Norway, you kind of see the trend shift towards the Nordics in regards to capacity. And with new fiber being built, like I mentioned, the Havfrue to the US, and a planned fiber going north to China. And as you all know, when you're flying from the US to Europe, or from Europe to China, you always fly north because it's the shortest route. Typically today, we don't do that. If you would like to go to China today, you have to go through Southern Europe and then to Middle East and have 5,000 stops along the way. I don't know about you, but me personally, when I'm flying, I like to fly direct. It gets me there faster. But for fiber, we don't traditionally have not done that. So I think adding these new fiber connectivity will significantly reduce the latency and shift the center of Europe north. So for instance, by adding the dotted line to China, you will reduce the latency with 35% compared to having those 5,000 stops along the way. So I think that's kind of, with all the new fiber into Norway, you will kind of see that trend shift happening more and more. And just to summarize that as well is, sustainability is a growing decision criteria for our clients. Norway have 100% renewable market. As Benedicte mentioned, the ability for Norway to be both a happy country, but also a country where the government supports data center development will significantly reduce the time to market. I remember when we actually built our first data center in Norway, it took less than 24 hours to get the approvals to build. And then, of course, the ability for expansions are important. We have a lot of available land. We have a progressive government, as I mentioned, so the credibility and a political stable climate, as also Benedicte mentioned, is important. And supported with a fantastic business case of cost, then I think you will see the DC world in Europe gravitate more and more towards the Norway and Nordics. So soon we will not just be flap D in Europe, we'll be flap DN or some other abbreviation. Benedicte, maybe you can share some insights in what's actually been happening in the Norwegian market for the last couple of years.
Thank you, Svein Atle. Well, the advantages of Norway, which you have been talking about, both the hydropower, the strong political commitment, and not least these amazing fiber investments we've seen these past couple of years, they have led to growth in the sector and also to internationalization of the Norwegian data center ecosystem. So that today we have both German and American and French owners behind a portfolio of colos and wholesale data centers, amongst them Green Mountain. And these data centers have clients from all over the world. You said yourself that Green Mountain now has the majority of megawatts going through Green Mountain is for clients based outside of Norway. And we also have a large portfolio of site developers, including Statkraft, who recently sold a plot of land to Google. So there's been a lot of interesting things happening just these past few years, and Microsoft, of course, opened 2 new data center regions in Norway also last year. but there have been huge things happening these past few years, but there are also very, very interesting things happening right now, which maybe haven't finalized, but that are going on. So I'd like to ask both you, Catherine and Svein Atle, about what's going on in Statkraft and in Green Mountain right now that's interesting for our audience maybe to hear about.
I'll let Katrine speak first.
Okay.
How? Thank you. As you said, started off with Benedict. I started recently. I started last year. We expanded the team last year, and we had the sale to Google, which has, of course, during this year as well, led to parts of the team being occupied with the progress of that work. We're looking to expand the portfolio of sites. We have recently joined forces with Haugaland Næringspark. That's an exciting site in western part of Norway, not too far away from you guys, Green Mountain. And this is an industrial park, so it's quite exciting. A lot of power availability as well. So we hope to look into that and bringing that to clients during the year. And of course, expanding with more sites is definitely a priority for us. How about you, Svein Atle?
I think we've seen the shift towards the Nordic and Norway especially already started. We have more than tripled our revenue over the last couple of years. So it's been a growth phase for us. The big thing this year is that we're opening a new site in Oslo, the capital region of Norway, now in September. So we're very excited about that. But for our clients, of course, as Benedict mentioned, about 60% of them are international now. And for them, it's not just what you have, but also what you're able to deliver in the future. And especially hyperscalers have somewhat of a challenge on answering to demand. So looking for the next expansion options are interesting. And as you mentioned, Katrina, I'm sure you will get attention regarding your site as well. We just last week announced a new site outside of, or a new potential site outside of Stavanger called Kalberg, which is going to be a large data center cluster development area for us with the massive amounts of power available. Actually, more than 500 megawatts are being assigned to that data center cluster area. So we're very excited about that. So for us, it's making sure that we do enough to be able to have continued growth.
Yeah, I like that. What about I guess the distance between the Kalberg site and Haugaland is quite interesting also with regards to a triangular shape. It's within an hour or so.
Absolutely, and like I said, we've been looking at that area as well, and we see that as an important kind of triangular area with our existing data center in DC1, the new DC4 Kalberg site, and then what we mentioned as DC5 potential at Haugaland as a potential interesting triangle area for this, especially for the hyperscalers and others who need the diversity and who needs kind of that disaster scenario or disaster recovery scenario.
Yeah. I mean, there are really great expansion plans from TSO Statnett in that area as well. So the power availability will be awesome, to use the correct word. And we're also looking at Haugaland, approximately the same levels as you mentioned for Kalberg. So this is really a great area for hyperscalers and co-locations, of course.
I think in general that area of Norway it's good both from the availability of power, but it's also the lowest power cost region in Norway. So kind of that adds to the business case and accessibility as well. The good thing about it as well is on the west coast of Norway you are closest to the major hubs in Europe. And if you go back and look at the latency slide as well, the latency from that area going especially to London is fantastic, probably better than what you can experience in the UK yourself.
But now I think you can continue that discussion somewhere else. I think from my point of view, I'd like to highlight the fact that there are good discussions going on within the Norwegian ecosystem, and the ecosystem has become so strong and so large, but they also work so well together that we see that gives a lot of synergies, both when we work nationally, getting sites ready, planning things, and also when we work internationally. So I think that's actually like our secret sauce is the ecosystem and their ability to cooperate. And with that, I would like to thank you for watching us. All three of us are available for a chat if there's anything you are wondering about. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Svein Atle, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks.